Good morning. Hope you all are enjoying the event so far. Thanks for coming in to learn more about our organization, Hermanos y Hermanas de Venezuela. Started back in on August 29th, 2020. So we use flight sim and live streaming to fund real-world charity operations outside of Maracaibo, Venezuela. I'll talk a little bit about our history, our overall impact in the 3 years we've been going, operations and initiatives we have going on the ground in Venezuela, some testimonials from those on Twitch and YouTube and other places where we have content, and then talk a little bit about moving forward, and then if there's time, we'll have some AMA at the end. This is really long. You can read it if you like. If not, I'm going to talk a little bit about my history in Venezuela. It starts in 2012 with an argument with my mother about why I'm going to a country in South America to teach English at an international school, which seemed insane to her and to many of my friends and other family as well. Over the next 5 years, I would meet many people who would feed and house me in Venezuela. I met my wife in Venezuela, had a kid in Venezuela, and then repatriated in 2017, and we're now in the Seattle area. Fast forward to 2020, with the pandemic, it was almost a daily or nightly occurrence that my wife would get would rise to a telephone call of someone passing away, of some mysterious pneumonia, and there isn't good education, and there's the kind of a crumbling medical infrastructure, which is one of the reasons I left in 2017. So I just had this feeling that I had a responsibility to do something about that because of how they treated me when I was there over the 5 years. So at that same time, I was kind of getting burned out on FPS games and kind of trying to transition to something more simulation-based. Got into flight sim, started watching some streams, and then I thought, how can I connect these two things? And Hermanos was born. Our first season was focused on actually making this an official nonprofit organization in Washington State. Our first shipment, as I mentioned earlier, August 29th, 2020, we sent 500 pounds of PPE, analgesic sanitizers, thermometers, other equipment to Maracaibo via Miami on ship. Those who have seen some of my streams may not have seen that original logo in its 180p glory in fall of 2020. Winter of that year, we had our first Navidad event, which is Christmas. We served over 1,000 hallacas, which is like a traditional Christmas food, and we served over 500 families at that event. And from that point on, I was committed to actually making this thing official. We were then sponsored for about a year, maybe 16 months, by Streamlabs charity. They matched all donations of people who came in on the stream, so that was really good for us during 2021 and 2022. We also incorporated On Air, which is, if you don't know, it's a permanent economy add-on to the simulator where you can deliver goods and people to different locations. So we kind of made that connection. So now, so that you have it in mind, we have the real stuff going on. We're shipping stuff down to Venezuela, and then we have the flights going on in the simulator where we're delivering stuff to our hub in Maracaibo, Venezuela. In spring of 2021, we received our first charity match payment of $640, and also our first Twitch payout as an affiliate on Twitch. And it's in that summer, I attended Expo 2021 in San Diego, made some connections with some people who are in this room, Mr. Slain Alpha being one of them. So season 2 was all about how can we make this more of a sustainable enterprise? How can we give the locals tools that they can live with beyond when we're just getting money in and then sending money out or sending goods, right? Something they can hold on to. So we relaunched in fall of 2021, little logo update. I did some flight training on Pilot Edge. I did all their rating programs by that winter I was done with those. So I was feeling really comfortable in the simulator at that point. And then kind of like the first year, we had a Christmas event again, now doubling our impact. We were impacting roughly 1,000 families. We had raised at that point over $15,000. And we were interested in, as I mentioned earlier, permanent sustainability solutions. So we actually bought some farmland outside of Maracaibo, and there's our first litter of pigs. And by spring, we had a cow, but it strangled itself one night, sadly, in the barbed wire. And so at this point, people are kind of wondering, it's weird to see the movement of people coming in and out of the channel, because at this point, I have a flight sim channel, but the Discord is all full of pictures of pigs getting castrated for the taste of the meat, and like all sorts of weird farm stuff. So it's like, it's True Ace. You've seen the Discord. Yeah. So it's kind of this, it's been really hard to kind of form an identity over the course of the 3 years, but I think we finally have. And so we have all of this farm stuff going on, pictures, sharing pictures of the impact, people in Venezuela, and then also bringing people in on the flights on the stream. The last picture in the summer of 2022 there is we resurfaced the pig pens. So. In season 3, we focused on kind of doing more global stuff. We got more into airliners. We had more people interested in doing offline flights with us through On Air, and also on some people see me on VATSIM and IVEO as well, doing flights with our code. At this point, we had raised $20,000. Our largest meal distribution came in winter of 2022. We served over 1,500 families. And the interesting thing, by winter of 2022, 70% was funded by the farm. So actually the farm was providing, and also the farm is offering up opportunities for livestock trade and ways to make money themselves. February, so on the channel we do kind of commemorative things, and one of the things I do every year is a Black History Month. So we did like a Bessie Coleman reenactment. We do stuff like that every February. But what was cool about February 2022 and why I put that image there was because one guy from Canada came into the stream and said he was inspired and found his own flight of Black history that he was going to do with his community, which I thought was really cool. In spring, this is just a couple months ago, I changed all of our name to Hermanos VA, and you may know me as Arctic Tern. That was my old brand. And I'm still actually doing the last voyage, the Tern's last migration. We're following the path of the migratory bird. Farewell tour, yeah. So that's still going on, actually. But by season 4, which will be this upcoming August, we'll have fully moved into using Flight Sim just as we're going to be around Venezuela or flying to Venezuela or to the farm scenery that we have that you'll see shortly. I've been in contact with South America Initiative, which is the second largest nonprofit organization functioning in the U.S. that provides aid in Venezuela, and a couple of others in the area as well. And then, of course, here we are at Expo. So that's kind of our journey. Our overall impact, what does it look like? Just north of $30,000 raised on live streams over 3 years. We've served more than 500 students. We provide things like school supplies, eye exams, dental care. more than 2,000 families received food and medicine. And we have over 3,000 supporters on all platforms. And that's one of my favorite quotes. You may know, si no vives para servir, no sirves para vivir, which means, if you know Spanish, yes, there you go. Yeah. Operations and initiatives. Our first one was Costa Oriental, which serves 5 communities: Campo Lara, Lagunillas, Burro Negro, among them, Ciudad Ojeda. Estimated population to serve is 215,000, which we're not obviously close to, but we're making an impact. Estimated all-time aid is 22,500. That differs from the over 3,000 in donations because we have expenses that is not, I wouldn't consider aid. Things like salary for the people who guard the farm and things like that. Farmland expansion 1 and 2. The farmland expansion 1 was kind of where you saw where we resurfaced the pig pens. We were mostly focused on pigs. And then expansion 2 is actually purchased farmland. And around $3,500 made in livestock trades at this point. So they've been able to provide that for themselves. Total livestock count, 38 minus 2. Some watching online for sure will know that we lost. So not only did we lose the 1 cow to self-strangulation, we lost a 2nd cow that was stolen because livestock is very valuable and theft is a real concern. So.
It's on GPS with the pet collars that you can buy for $30. We have bought one for our dog, and so my wife could use an app and see where, like, when she was in Japan visiting family, and I was walking the dog, she could actually see the track going around the neighborhood.
Very cool. Can you bring that up again in Q&A so that I can repeat it? Yeah, thanks. Testimonials. There's some testimonials from people about our Twitch channel. I'm not going to read through them. I'll leave it up there for a little bit. But I think central to all of them is a sense of purpose for flying in the simulator. So this concept that we are actually making an impact by making these deliveries in the simulator. Big thank you to anyone in here or online or elsewhere who has donated or volunteered their time. We have people donating in a lot of ways to us. We have a Venezuelan guy who designs our liveries and sceneries, things like that. People who donate their time to fly with us. So it's not just money. Contact information. So all socials now are at Hermanos de VZLA. Hermanosva.org is the main website. We're moving toward Patreon and YouTube, actually. So I'm stepping back a little bit from Twitch, which you may have noticed if you keep track of me at all. So Patreon is, you're going to get kind of these newsletter updates. You'll get inside information about scenery work that we're doing in the simulator, or liveries, but also just the real life stuff that's happening day to day. And I still have the old email, our return email, so. I couldn't have a presentation without a couple of really nice close-up shots of our planes. And this is one of my favorite, which is the AN-2, the Antonov. This was actually, so we tend to do planes that have a history, aviation history in Venezuela. This one was used for bush flights out near Canaima. And so we did a paint on it, and we also did our first stream out in that area. But this one was taken in Rio. Of course, you can probably see the little statue up there on the mountain, Sugarloaf. Looking forward to making even more of an impact next season, again, via YouTube and Patreon.
Y te doy gracias, gracias Señor, gracias mi Señor Jesús. Gracias, muchas gracias Señor, gracias mi Señor Jesús. Canta conmigo: en la cruz diste tu vida, entregaste todo ahí, vida eterna regalaste al morir. Por tu sangre tengo entrada ante el trono celestial. Yo puedo entrar confiadamente ante ti. Para darte las gracias, gracias Señor, gracias mi Señor Jesús.
Gracias, señor Nicolás William, por el detalle que nos diste mío y de mis compañeros. Nos vemos desde Venezuela. Chao. Gracias.
We'll take questions at this point. I don't know if there are any online. I have a Discord running too, so. This is in Matecaña, Colombia. Yeah.
Just curious why you're pulling back from Twitch for YouTube. Does YouTube have better provisions for charitable efforts?
It's not so much that. I just feel that long form is kind of falling off a lot recently. I don't see as much support. I think not as many people are sitting around for long hours, streaming or watching streams. So I'm experimenting with some more short form stuff. We're also going to do some math content. I actually am a math teacher by trade. And then also going to do some city designing, architecture stuff. Yeah.
It's always fun explaining to people what this is all about, what it is, and being a part of it. But for sure, even to this day, I kind of don't know how hard is it. I assume it's hard. Or what was the journey like to create or start this charity? What did you have to do?
You mean just like the organization itself, or?
Putting all this together, yeah, in regards to being able to have, because it's everything you donate, if you see it, it's on the farmland. So if someone else was to want to do it, so to speak, right? How would you say go about starting to think about that and do that?
Well, I think for me the driving force has always been, I just felt a responsibility or a need to give back. And if you just let that kind of center you, guide you forward, the rest just kind of comes. I mean, I think anyone who does content creation knows one day you push a button and then you just have to kind of keep building it from there. I mean, everything that this is to this point is, it started, you saw some pictures of where it started, right? It's just goofing around and trying to figure things out on the fly. But what was always there was the need to provide. So, yeah.
So the farm is maintained and run by staff that you pay at the organization?
Yes. So I have the benefit of having, so my sister-in-law is still there. Sorry? Oh, can you repeat it so I can repeat it correctly? Yeah, sorry.
Who maintains the farm, and are they staff at the organization?
So the question is, who maintains the farm and are they staff? And the answer is yes. However, my sister-in-law is still there, and she and her husband kind of run most of the operations on the ground, and they do that with their church. So, there's some subsidization there, I guess I could say.
It's livestock strictly, or do you do other agricultural products?
It's just, so we do animal feed, we do chickens, we do, we did cows for a little bit, and then pigs. And obviously we have crops, so we have plantains, pumpkin, yucca, yeah. Anything online? I'm gonna check mine really quick. I don't. Okay. Well, if there are no more questions, yeah.
I got another question.
Uh-huh.
Sure. So the thing about your streams I like a lot is that there's days I can come in and just be silly and like have a 200 knot approach and end it that way.
Yeah.
You know me for that. My Concord and whatnot. So like I get to do that, and then there's days when I actually try to like learn some aviation because I do like the piece that comes with the spatial memory that gets to exercise in my brain. No other game provides that most of the time. A lot of games, you're killing people and you're getting stressed out if you lose or whatever, right?
Mhm.
Like that's the best thing about flight sim. I'm sure we can all agree. But like, how many years or like how were you able to provide such like fast? Like how were you able to get to that point where you can kind of like quote unquote fly like how you would in ROL, IRL?
So the main question is, how was I able to get to the point of flying somewhat realistically? So I would credit the networks that I fly on, Iveo, Pilot Edge, and BatSim, with a lot of kind of the radio stuff. But outside of that, I think it's just, I have a math brain and I really enjoy messing around with stuff. And, old school navigation was really what got me into kind of thinking about vectors and, how the angles intercept and how I'm going to approach things, right? And then from there, it just built on that. Yeah.
The math content you mentioned, is that
Uh-huh.
going to be more aviation focused or just math content?
I don't, I struggle, I thought about like aviation style math, but there's so many like mandated courses for that I wouldn't be certified to do because I'm not trained in it. So I feel like maybe it wouldn't be that. Probably like algebra and geometry, kind of GED stuff maybe, or high school math. Yeah. Yes.
What is the name of your organization?
Hermanos. Yeah. HERMAN@S. So it's hermanos y hermanas. Yeah. Yeah.
So, could you give us a little bit about like what you anticipate or what the future might be in store for situation? Where
The situation in Venezuela or the.
you're flying everything, just like flying on the strings to what you got next in store, like the farms and such.
Yeah. So the question is, what does the future hold? Content-wise, again, moving toward YouTube and Patreon. Gonna mix in some math. Gonna do some city building with City Skylines too, I think. Just branching out. playing some different angles, I think. Flight sim, and I've heard this constantly in presentations today, very niche community, right? So I think I'm at the point now where trying to fund this just through flight sim is not sustainable or smart. So just kind of playing different angles. So content-wise, that. At the farm, we were going to do our first permanent structure there, which was going to have a bathroom, kind of be like a storehouse. And we had some recent flooding, which I thought about putting a video in, but I didn't get a chance to this morning. We had some recent flooding out there, but with the wet soil, we think it's going to be good for corn, or at least the locals are telling me it's going to be good for corn, so we're going to try for that. So corn you can do a lot of things with corn, right? But aside from just the plant, right, you have masa, you have animal feed, you have a bunch of stuff that can come. So it seems like a better opportunity to do that rather than the permanent structure. So that's where we're at there. Yeah, Dan.
Going down there a lot to kind of make those decisions? You said your sister-in-law is also kind of running day-to-day?
Yeah, she handles the day-to-day, and I have not been there since 2018. But looking to go back, we're hoping to do some sort of group trip in 2025. It's going to depend on how open it is. Right now, there's just one route between Bogota and Caracas and Port of Spain and Caracas. So it's kind of difficult. I feel comfortable because I'm married to a Venezuelan. I have access to a Venezuelan citizenship if I want it. But the people coming with me, I don't really feel comfortable with that right now, with where it's at. So. Welcome in, Sarge. Anything else? Okay, thank you guys. Good questions. Best way to get involved, I think right now would be joining the Patreon. I'm not sure how long I want to keep Discord going because it's just so kind of crazy. If you have your own, you know this, it just gets kind of out of control. And it kind of has a mind of its own right now. It's healthy. It's a healthy community on Discord, but I just think Patreon's it's more official. I can branch out to my actual professional community with something like a Patreon where I'm not going to send a Discord link to my, a former, coworker. It's different in that way. So I think getting involved, Patreon would be the way to go. 5 and 10 years, I haven't quite decided if this is my life's work style project. I kind of go back and forth on that. If it is, then in 5 to 10 years, I would see us with some sort of permanent structure on the farm and me visiting there and taking more command of the operations on the ground. That's where I would see that. Is that it? Yeah, Dan.
Do you see in that, if you were to go there, the vehicle content creation and flight simulation phasing out, or being still a part of that?
You mean if I end up there?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think I would be there full time, so maybe it would be a seasonal thing. Maybe it would be like when I'm not teaching, I would go down there during the summer, and then content creation would be different, but I would have access to things that I could post, like Patreon, rather than having to live stream, because consistency in internet for sure is kind of not there.